I confidently said that I would break into the mafioso's house under the guise of a maid, but the cops at the station just laughed at that. I recently graduated from the police academy and I thought that thanks to the red diploma, I would be put on the most difficult investigations, but all I did in the squad was run to buy donuts for the cops. However, today the chief told about the theft of a diamond necklace, in which the main criminal of the city was involved. And I immediately decided to show these guys who was the coolest here. The case would be mine. The cops kept laughing at me, but the chief thought about it. I was new to the city, which meant that the mafia did not know about me. And he gave me the job. Everyone was in shock, and I was happy. This was my chance to prove myself. I had been waiting for it for so long. At the station, I was given a walkie-talkie and a pendant with a built-in camera. An hour later, I was standing at the right house. I was met by a security guard who looked me over in disbelief and then led me to the boss, Mr. Batista. I could feel a cold sweat breaking out on my back. Our prime suspect was standing in front of me. Even though I had fake references, I was still worried that I would be discovered. The mafioso stared at my pendant for a long time. If he saw the camera, I was screwed. My heart was pounding like crazy. But all Batista said that it suited my pretty face and that he was willing to hire me. He immediately decided to give me a mini tour of the house, but as soon as I reached his office, the mafioso said that it was strictly forbidden to enter there. Only he had the keys. What was he hiding? At night, while everyone was asleep, I crept to the mafioso's bedroom and carefully opened the door, but it suddenly creaked. Damn. I hope no one heard. I peeked cautiously into the room. Batista was snoring in his bed. I crept carefully to the bedside table and ran my hand over it. Here they were, these keys. I grabbed them sharply. Suddenly, the mafioso's hand reached out for me. I had already said goodbye to my life, but then I noticed the thread. The keys were tied to Batista's wrist. What if he woke up? The seconds dragged by unbearably long. And then the snoring began again. I exhaled and carefully unhooked the keys from his hand. I was walking out of the bedroom in total darkness when a guard suddenly appeared in the hallway. He was coming in my direction. I quickly hid behind a corner, hoping that I wouldn't be noticed. But then the guard turned down the stairs. It turned out okay. I immediately rushed to the office and opened the door. When inside, I turned on the flashlight and looked around. Nothing unusual. Suddenly, the room was pierced by the creak of the door. Someone was standing in the doorway, but I couldn't see his face because of the darkness. Then he started coming at me. I wasn't told in the academy what to do if you were caught red-handed in a mafioso's house. Then he suddenly said my name and hugged me. Hey! What's going on? What? Princess didn't recognize? He smiled. I could see him closer now. It was Sean, my high school crush. Before graduation, he suddenly flew abroad without warning me. I was in a lot of pain then. Sean asked me gently what I was doing here, since I graduated from the police academy, not the maid school. I tensed. What if he was the mafioso's agent? But Sean said he knew I was a cop. How? But he went on. Sean said he could finally explain everything to me. It turned out that he left the country because of his father's order. Order? Couldn't he say no? Sean hesitated for a moment, then admitted that his father was the head of the mafia and that he just couldn't cross him. It was dangerous to argue with him. The son of the mafioso? I was speechless. Sean led on. He was tired of his father's orders. He wanted to live a normal life. That's why he wanted to help me arrest his father. Then I heard footsteps and Sean said we should leave. We would talk tomorrow. I couldn't sleep all night, and I thought about Sean. After his departure, I could not get over it for a long time, and I imagined what our first meeting would be like. It was incredible that it happened under such circumstances. In the morning, I was woken up by a call from the chief. Through the camera and the pendant, they heard our conversation with Sean. The chief said that the affair was getting in the way, and he wanted to suspend me. Damn, but Sean and I hadn't had anything to do with each other in a long time. There was a tense silence on the other end. Please, give me a chance. The chief sighed heavily. Okay, one slip and I would be carrying donuts to the cops forever. The next day, I was cleaning the front hall of the house when Sean came over and handed me a box of my favorite candy. I was touched, but he suddenly asked if I was busy on the weekend. Sean, I'm definitely not up to this right now, but I'll try to do something if I find out where Sean's father might have hidden the necklace. Sean thought about it, but said that there was a safe in his father's office, only it was hidden behind one of the paintings. We immediately went to the office, but the guard was standing there. Heck! I was scared, but I reminded myself, you have a red diploma from the police academy. You can do anything. Then I went to the guard and told him that I needed to clean the office, but he just gave me a contemptuous look and said to get lost. heck? And what should I do? And suddenly Sean, who knew nothing about police tricks, approached the guard. He was going to ruin us. But Sean started talking about football while pushing me toward the door. The guard was so engrossed in the conversation that he didn't even notice me. I slipped inside cautiously. The safe was indeed behind a painting. All I had to do was to remember the instructions for hacking. But the reality was more complicated. And as I dialed the numbers over and over, I was already desperate. But the green light finally came on. It worked! With trembling hands, I pulled the velvet box out of the safe and couldn't believe my eyes. There was the necklace inside. Then Sean came running up to me. He called out that his father was coming up to the office. We needed to run fast. The heavy footsteps of the mafioso could already be heard on the stairs. Then Sean opened the window and told me to jump. I dropped the necklace in surprise, but it was too late. We jumped off. This was a complete failure. Through the camera independent, the chief saw how I screwed up. Now I was going to carry donuts and coffee to the cops for the rest of my life. I was not a cop. I was an errand girl who missed out on the most important investigation in her career. We didn't land very well and I burst into tears. Sean began to calm me down. He was so sincere, as if in school. When I fell in physical education, we hid in the courtyard. Looks like everyone in the house was already looking for us. Soon, there was a commotion from the parking lot. We looked around the corner. The mafioso was getting in the car, and in his hands, he was holding the fairy velvet box. We thought he wanted to hide it away. We needed to catch up with them before Batista hides it. Sean, you're going to help me, right? And then Sean looked me in the eye, saying that he was willing to take the risk, but on one condition. If everything works out, I'll go on a date with him. There was no time to think. Yes, Sean, I'll go on a date with you. Just do something. Within a couple of minutes, we were chasing the mafioso's car. My heart was pounding. Sometimes it felt like we'd missed them. But Sean was good at maneuvering. We continued the chase. They stopped at the dilapidated building and went inside. Sean and I followed quietly. Crouching in the rubble, I pointed the camera independent at the mafioso, and then he took a necklace out of his suitcase. My throat was dry from the stain, and not that. At the same time, a strong hand from one of the guards grabbed my shoulder. We were taken to the mafioso, but he still laughed at the startled expressions on Sean's and my faces. He said that it was a test for his son, and I was suspicious from the very beginning. I had to save Sean and me somehow. I fumbled for the walkie-talkie in my pocket to give the coordinates to the chief, but it was noticed by the security guard. He took the walkie-talkie out of my pocket and threw it against the wall. The mafioso told him to do the same to us. It was the end. My whole not-so-long life flashed before my eyes. I don't want to die, but suddenly a megaphone was heard in the distance. Everyone stop! Police! I saw the chief among the policemen. How glad I was. When he came up to me, I asked, "Did the walkie-talkie work?" And he said that he was worried about me and watched the video from the pendant throughout the investigation. So he knew where we were going. I thanked him sincerely, and in return, he praised me and thoughtfully said that I reminded him of his daughter. I was persistent, but needed to be watched. A couple of weeks later, the mafioso was put on trial. When the jury handed down the verdict, I heard a round of applause. It took me a while to realize that they were addressed to me. I proved to everyone that I was a real cop. Suddenly, I noticed Sean. He came up to me and reminded me of our agreement. Wow, because of what happened, I forgot about the date, but I gladly agreed. After all, it was Sean who helped me cope. I spent a whole evening choosing an outfit just like in school. Why was I so excited? Had I never forgotten Sean in all these years? We were sitting at his house when suddenly he took out a velvet box from under the seat. Did Sean get me a present? He opened it, but there was the same diamond necklace. What was happening? It was supposed to be at the station. Sean said that he would never let the stupid cops take the necklace. And now the police had a fake. It turned out that he had long wanted to take the throne of the head of the mafia. But his father did not give in. Then I came along and helped him. With a grin, he said that I would now be his queen. It was like I froze. It can't be, so he used me. Sean suddenly grabbed me and bared his teeth. He growled that we'd broken up once, but it wouldn't happen again. I tried to pull away, but Sean was stronger. I should have played along with him. I forced a smile and said that being a queen wasn't so bad. At that moment, I snatched the necklace out of his hand. Sean was taken aback, and without thinking, I broke the window and jumped out into the street. I'd hurt my leg badly, and it was unbearably painful to walk. But I knew I couldn't stop. Sean would chase me with the last of my strength. I climbed into my car and slammed on the gas. I still couldn't believe that the bastard had betrayed me. I drove for a long time without looking back and then turned off the road into the woods. With shaking hands, I dialed the chief and immediately told him about the necklace. But he interrupted me. They didn't have anything against Sean. No one would believe me. How could this be? The excitement made it hard to breathe. I put my hand on my chest. That's right, the pendant! After completing the investigation, I forgot to return it. And the camera was working in it all this time. I started the engine abruptly. All I had to do was get to the police station. And how did the story end? One of the students asked me. Well, thanks to this case, I'm now one of the chief detectives of the police. I have dozens of high-profile investigations solved on my account. The students of the police academy looked at me with admiration, and then someone from the back of the desk quietly asked what the main advice I would give for the future was. I thought about it for a while, but I answered firmly. After that investigation, I know for sure that you need to believe in your dream and go to the end despite all the obstacles, and then everything will work out.